All right. Well, to get started, I am Frank Alio, and I'm going to be your host today. And I have a couple of guest speakers. I've got Gene Hooper, and then I've got Roger. And we're going to be talking today about um, an investment opportunity. And with that, who would like to start off? Gene, would you like to
Yeah,
start off?
let me introduce what we're doing here and how this came about. Anyway, I'm Gene Hopper, and what I'm here to talk to you about, and we don't think of ourselves as guest speakers, we're just people that are involved in a project opportunity that we're dealing with, and we need some help, I guess you'd put it that way. So what we've done is we have a couple of different, I guess you would call them, one is a project and the second one is a investment loan opportunity that Roger's group is going to finance. And when I say finance, I'll let Roger explain that. And what we're presenting here is an opportunity for you to help us get the critical part, which is about $200,000 in cost, going. If we can get that going, the rest of it will flow according to the program that Roger and his group work with. So that being said, we're here to discuss what the $200,000 is for, how the program works, how it will be spent, when it can be recovered if you guys put it forth, and we'll let Frank and his group determine what the reward should be. So anyway, with that being said, Roger, would you just introduce the group that you're working with and what they do and what we're going to do with the $200,000, what the timing of the opportunity is, and why we're using the money?
Excellent. Okay. Yes, I will. And again, I will do the same. Instead of a guest speaker, we're here as opportunity to move forward with your group. We work with a group that's Viking. Viking is a registered, everybody that works for Viking is registered financial people. They all are 100% involved in finance. And what they do is about a year ago, so a little bit over a year ago now, the company realized the need for helping corporations and companies get funded. We all realized that the funding part of companies was shutting down, and Nick decided to put together a group to make it happen. So what Nick did, because his corporation is regulated, he decided to go and associate his company with other companies that were also regulated, because in most situations, if you put together what he wanted to do, you can't hire the people that have the connections or the stability to be able to do it. So what he did was this. He decided that the first start of setting up a fund had to be setting up a fund, which would be done through the Cayman Islands. They went and he hired a law firm in the Cayman Islands, because it was a tax-free environment, to actually put together a corporation, which with a bank account is considered the fund. Now, most people that know Cayman Islands, you can set up a corporation with a bank account from anywhere from $5,000 to $500,000. And Nick wanted to put together a rock solid foundation. The setups that he was doing is purely for funding. So this is how it starts. The next thing he needed to do was he put together an asset manager. Now, we call him an asset administrator. And what that asset administrator is, it's a firm out of Switzerland. This firm out of Switzerland has a large number of people within the corporation. They specialize in taking assets, whether the asset is a hotel that's getting ready to be built, whether it's a stadium getting ready to be built, whatever it is, they do the administration of it. They take it over and decide what is the value that they can get for it. So they act as like a private bank. This group handles about $500 billion. They go to either a gold fund. Now, the reason for a gold fund is these guys in Europe have a lot of gold, and they have no place to actually use their gold. So what they do is take projects, they put up their gold at the bank to get a bond which would cover the project and actually finance it. The next group he brought in was a group that has done these funds before. They actually have done 150 of them. They are experts in taking the funds and administrating. Now, the reason when you say administrating funds, it's you got to make sure people get paid out on these projects properly. You've got to make sure that everybody that's involved gets paid. Now, because this is a fund, there is no consultants, there is no brokers involved. Everybody is listed as a shareholder. So let's say the group that is being put together here, it would be listed as a shareholder group. They would own X number of shares, and they would be paid out monthly, just like the project owner. They would also get paid by owning shares in the project. So this way that you get kind of two for one. But the object behind that is that everybody's involved. Because they're shareholders, nobody can ever be cut out. Nobody can ever be listed as less than what they are. The next piece that was brought in is we bring in a company such as Price Waterhouse. The reason we bring in Price Waterhouse is when the fund administrator does the issuance of funds, because this is a Cayman Island fund, they want to make sure everybody receiving any type of monies, that everything is registered. They don't care where the money is sent. They care that it is used for the project, is the main source. But at the same time, there needs to be accountability for the money. So that's why there's a Price Waterhouse. And in the sense of having, instead of consultants receiving money, the people that put up the money, the reason they want to make sure is that if you have a question, you say you received $100 and you thought you're supposed to receive $150. You could call the accounting firm. The accounting firm can give you the exact number, and this way it is always straight up. The other thing is, if there's ever a question for taxes, or if there's a question when people receive money from the Cayman, you always have to go through money laundering and the Patriot Act. They do all that paperwork, so everything is upfront and it's done properly. Now, the reason for doing $200,000 is when Nick put these groups together, the law firm required money to get paid to put the fund together. So it starts off that the lawyers get paid to put the fund together and to open the first bank account. They get paid between $50,000 and $75,000. The next group is the asset administrator that I told you, that firm. That firm charges 1% a quarter. And the reason they take 1% a quarter, they take 1% a quarter is that is their fee for doing the all the work to bring in the banks or the gold fund to get the project funded. Now, because 1%, if it's a $100 million project, would cost more than we have put together, Nick worked out a contract with them to pay them X amount of money and to do all the work and get everything ready. And upon the financing, they would then get their 1% a quarter. The same exact thing happens with the fund manager. The fund manager charges 1% a quarter to handle the money, take care of the banks, take care of all the funding. Well, again, we can't afford to pay them up front because they would take more than we have. So again, they've reduced their fees just to have basically setup fees to have everything done for the new fund. And then at the funding, they start taking their 1% a quarter. And the last is the, whether it's $1,500 or $2,500 to the Price Waterhouse Group. Now, one other piece that you need to be made aware of is the asset administrator's job is also in charge of, if there's a project, let's say a hotel, their job is to bring in and do all the DD. Now, that's the same thing a bank would do. His job is to look at all the who owns the land. His job is to look at with the land, do they have all the permits? With that, are all the drawings, are the cash flow statements and everything correct? That's his job, or I should, is the corporation's job. The same thing if they brought somebody in that had an asset. We have people that have gold or jewels that they would like to fund. The same thing. His job is to pull out all the GIA reports, make sure that the people are credible that did the reports. He has to check where they've had the jewels SKR'd in a safekeeping vault, and then arrange to put together the people to pick up the stones and keep them, such as a Brinks, and why that there is funds being used against those stones. They are locked up at a Brinks, they're insured, and the fees are being paid to Brinks to make sure that the insurance is paid, the transportation fees of locking them up in their safes are all done. So there's a lot of moving pieces that one corporation such as Viking would have a hard time with enough people to handle by distributing it out to these other companies and letting them do the work along with Viking. And again, every one of these companies everybody's registered that works for these companies, and everybody's regulated by government and banking regulations for these companies, so that there is hopefully no mistakes along the way at any given time. And then we have the watchdog above it all, which is the accounting firm, which is whether it's a worldwide or a national registered accounting firm, to make sure, again, that everything is on paper and everything can be followed through with. Okay, that's my 5-minute spiel. So if you have any questions, I'd love to take them from you.
Well, the question was going to be, how do I get a warm, fuzzy feeling that I'm going to go ahead and raise 250,000 is what we need to get in? How is I going to feel comfortable? And oh my God, did you go over that? Well, I mean, you ran over that with a truck.
Thank you. Well, let me add one more piece then, just because you brought something up. When somebody brings us a project, whether it again is stones or a hotel or a complex, they give us the paperwork. The paperwork is sent in and it's reviewed. Sometimes it takes a few days, sometimes it could take 2 weeks. And the reason it's reviewed is to make sure it meets all the requirements to do the project and to get it funded. Once that is completed, they receive a letter. Once we know it's a good project, we can handle it. Viking sends an engagement letter, and they basically spell out everything I just gave you. Everything I said is in the engagement letter. And once that engagement letter is signed, the company then takes all their paperwork, they bring it in, and that's when the asset administrator, his job is to start doing DD immediately. And it starts, so from the time that happens, it takes 6 to 10 weeks. And this coronavirus has kind of thrown this around a little bit, but it takes 6 weeks to get it funded, up and running. And then after that, it's every month, it's like clockwork, just like a bank would do.
So what you're saying is our puny little 250K is not what the investment is. It's just the fees to get to piggyback on an existing investment. Is that correct?
That's correct. We have projects. Gene has brought in some projects with his team that has been amazing. Um, we help anything from a gold mine. We have diamond mines that want financing, and these are major corporations. And we have hotels. We have another group that has they're building a hospital, a hotel, and housing in areas like in an area of Florida, which would bring people to that area so this way they could go into the hospital, stay at the hospital while their family gets to stay with them, except they're in a beautiful area. And we do projects like that that we've already looked at. They've been approved. Gene's done a great job with bringing them in. And a lot of these people don't have 200,000 to put into these projects to get them off the ground. So that's why we look for the investment, and we bring in people that would like to get involved and take a piece of the project.
Well, that's exactly what I gleaned from this. Is we're not the guys that we're not the main focus. We're just going to grab a little piece of the pie for simply paying for the attorneys. Is that correct?
Yeah, you pay for the attorneys, the asset administrator, and the fund administrator to put everything together, and for hiring the Price Waterhouse for putting all the paperwork together to oversee, because we'll even have the overseeing of the startup of everything will be watched by Price Waterhouse. There is no money being spent, just so you're aware of this also. There's no consultants, Viking, nobody takes any money from this original setup fee. This is purely a setup fee to pay the professionals to get everything in place.
That is a reassuring. I mean, that is very reassuring to know that you have so many big names involved in it. Heretofore, I've been, dealing with, I guess, Mickey Mouse Club, and this is, I mean, this is very reassuring to hear those big names, and the fact that they are registered. That's very important. That will make us feel a lot better about raising a small amount, an insignificant amount. We've been looking at a $1 million trade that's going to pay about the same as this $250,000 fee is going to pay. So, wow, this is fantastic.
Now, there's one other small piece, just so you're aware of it. If your group comes in, and let's say, whoever's going to be in charge, let's say it's you, Frank, whether it's a company.
Let me just say, it could be me or it could be Ron. It'd be one of us.
Okay.
Okay.
If you come in with your name, or whether you come in with a company name, everybody may be involved inside that, where they would, let's say all of your investing group would be put under one person. And this way, your group would own whatever the number of shares are in the corporation. It is listed when the money is actually put together. The asset owner gets a PPM. Everything is spelled out, so he knows your group put up the money. He'll know that you are getting paid X. You will see the names in that PPM of the asset administrator firm. You will see the name of the accounting firm. You'll see the name of the fund manager, everything from Viking. So everything is spelled out in that PPM when they go to do the funding. Now, one more, and one more small thing.
Before you go on to that one more small thing, I've been with you on every single acronym you used, except PPM. Could you explain?
Private Placement Memorandum.
Okay, good.
Because it's considered, it's not a bank, so it's a private placement. When that is done, everything is spelled out. The reason they ask one person to be in charge of your group is you're going to sign an NDA with us. And the reason you're going to do it is we ask all the consultants or anybody involved not to be calling the fund manager or the asset administrator, because these guys, they're big corporations, and they've done this before with people. And the problem is the consultants start calling them like crazy. And they said, guys, we're not in this to do one piece. We're one piece of the whole pie. And if you're calling us, we can't help you. You got to have a whole pie. So we would ask that whoever is in charge or the lead signs the NDA. Now, there's one other piece that I know makes Gene happy. The money is returnable. So your money is not thrown out the window, and if something doesn't happen immediately. There is a guarantee in the engagement letter that the money would be returned if the people want to back out for any reason that own the asset, or for any reason. The only money that would ever be lost is the money that is actually spent doing the DD of a project. Now, what we do is, in the event that the asset, the owner of the asset backed out, which I've been doing this for a little while and I've not heard any asset person want to back out. But in that case, we can either put in another company, another hotel, another hospital that would like to be involved, or we could return the money. So it would be your call either way. Do you want your money back, or do you want to be involved in another project if the one that you were involved with, the asset owner, backed away from the project, so that your money's never at risk?
Okay. Yep, that was my next question. You're doing fantastic. You're beating me to my questions, but okay, that's great. Wow. How long is the trade?
It lasts 10 months. Now, again, if it goes in as a funding for like a hotel or a hospital, it takes anywhere from 1 to 3 years to build a hospital or a hotel or a major project. So the hospital or hotel, they would be funded for the full time that they needed the money for. They don't get given the money up front, because God forbid somebody said they had $100 million project or $200 million. They were given $200 million day one, and they disappeared on their new yacht with their new jet. Our guys would all be in trouble, because again, they're regulated that they're supposed to be doing this according to Hoyle, and we don't want to, have people be getting arrested because they just gave away money and the people took it and ran.
Okay, another assurance. Okay, that's what everyone is looking for, as many assurances as possible. So I appreciate that you're coming up with them before I'm asking for them, but I appreciate that. Okay, anything else that you wanted to add?
Nope, I think I've covered all of the pieces for you. It's important that, everybody does realize that from start to finish, it's 6 to 10 weeks. So we'll keep you informed if you're involved with us. I'm sure Gene would keep you informed as each step is made. And like I said, in the first couple of weeks, you'll be fully up to date. And from that point on, you'll know where we are. Now, the only thing is right now is, and I brought this up to Gene this morning, we are pushing to get done as soon as we can, because we're going to start running into Christmas. And we want everybody involved so we can get these things funded before Christmas. So this way, everybody's still there. Europe works. They're not like the United States. They'll work up to around the 10th of December. and they don't have Thanksgiving. Only the United States does. But since all the firms that we are working with are in Europe, we don't have the Thanksgiving issue.
Okay. So let me make sure I understood what you just said, because I'm not sure that I'm clear. This is going to be a 10-month program or a 10-month trade, and we want to start it as soon as possible, and we want to start it before Christmas because
Correct.
we may lose Christmas through New Year's. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, what happens during Christmas through New Year's if we start next week?
We'll have made it if we start next week. But Christmas through New Year's, as you're aware, the week of Christmas through usually the first week of January, everything is closed. Nothing's going on. People are on vacation and they're not coming back. So we have to wait for them to reopen. So we usually lose 2 weeks up to 3 weeks while they're gone. And I don't want anybody to be, you didn't tell us. I'm telling you because we want to make sure we're on the right foot from the time we start, all the way through the time we have everything done.
Okay. Now, I don't know if this is an appropriate question for you, but I'm going to go ahead and put it out there. And Gene, you can answer it if you need to. What I'm going to do is, as I mentioned, I'm a senior mortgage banker, retired or recovering senior mortgage banker, and I will be gathering the money together, whether it's 1, 2, or 3 of my people. We'll be gathering the money together so that we come up with the 250K. Once we have that 250K in hand, what is step number 1? Because that's the gathering the money is the pre-step, is the preparation. Once we have the money and it's liquid and it's somewhere, what's the next step?
I'll answer the first part of that. Once you have the money, we'll get you a written agreement with the asset holder to pay the agreed upon fee that you're extracting for putting up this $200-some thousand. So I'll take responsibility on that because the projects, we already have an agreement with our clients to do this. And then at that point, we'll notify Roger and then he can take it from there with Viking.
Okay.
But you can be assured that we already have projects that are lined up and ready to go. And they've already been reviewed by Roger's group. So we know they're going to go through and they're agreeable to paying an appropriate amount of money on that 200-some thousand. So.
Okay. All right. Ron, do you have any questions? Jim, do you have any questions? You can just unmute yourself and go ahead and ask, or just tell me no. Jim, you can unmute yourself if you're on a computer. Just click on the button. You should say, hey, let us know you're here. Okay. And Ron, you get your camera on again. Ron is a driven man. I don't know any time that I speak to Ron, he's not driving somewhere. He's a driven man.
Exactly. No, I was just muted out quite thoroughly, Frank. So I like everything I hear, and I look forward to reviewing this. And I'm sure, this weekend we'll be on the phone with some people, combination of using their money or your funding to make this happen.
Okay, good. And Gene, we have more than one opportunity here. Is that correct?
Yeah, we have actually probably 4 projects that are set to go that could go through. Our goal is to get them in place within the week so that they're started and we can be paid before the end of the year. Otherwise, it's going to end up, our payback is into next year, which is not the end of the world, but we have a couple that are absolutely ready to go. One of them is project related, which is funding. The other one is asset related, which is the trade that you're talking about for 10 months. But
Okay.
they're good projects and they're ready to go, or they're good assets that have already been reviewed by Roger and his group.
Okay, good. And Jim, would you like to ask any final questions before I let these gentlemen go? Okay, don't say I didn't offer it. Thank you very much. And Roger, thank you. Susie, thank you. And Jean, thank you very much for your time on a Saturday morning. I appreciate it. And we will see what we can do about gathering these funds together. It's not that much money. It's pretty easy to get. It's low-hanging fruit for me to get my people that money in a week's time. And if that's the case, then we will stay in touch with you and we'll see if we can't launch at least one of these programs. All right.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you
Very
very
good,
much for your
Frank.
time.
All right.
Bye.
God bless. Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Bye.